So I guess I have a more specific question, and it's about whenever you mentioned, like right after you mentioned uncontrollability and beauty, when you were talking about Da Vinci and you showed this depiction of nature, and then you said something like it would be better to draw nature by, looking at a reference instead of, just through memory. And I was just wondering, like, could you kind of expand on that? I mean, is it about, something from memory just being more kind of like a fictional depiction, whereas when you look at a reference, it's more literal? And how do you define which is better than the other? Kind of?
Yeah. So I don't know. I have the feeling I didn't explain it exactly well. What I meant to say there is that there was kind of like I think a philosophical debate between between Da Vinci and like Botticelli in that sense. What Leonardo da Vinci was saying was that if you sit there and try to draw a forest, like you will draw something that looks totally fake because you are going to draw a kind of cartoonish version based on your head. And he actually advises not even to draw a real forest. He advises to look at chaotic surfaces or surfaces that are complex. So for example, like, he says like stained plaster, or again, this kind of like throwing the sponge at the wall. He's privileging actually the act of human eyes looking for forms in a complex landscape and saying that will produce the more realistic forest image than if I think about what a forest is, and therefore my painting of the forest is colored by my understanding also of the forest. So there's a very similar exercise in a way, very famous one, which is, and it's a drawing by Picasso of a man sitting in a chair. And it's much easier for people to copy this drawing if they turn it upside down and copy it as just abstract lines, than if they have it upside up and draw it as a man, because then they look at the face of the man, but they draw a face as they would do it. So what I think what the point of this debate was that when you estrange the kind of meaning of something from its formal aspect, you actually are kind of more open to, let's say, formal experimentation. It's quite a subtle argument in a sense, and I suppose at the time there was a moral implication as well, which would be that, if you're going to draw the Garden of Eden, you shouldn't base that on clouds or a sponge on the wall, because that doesn't have any inherent value to it. It's like totally random, and randomness is not associated with the way that, like, the Christian God made the world. That was like with intention. So you have a kind of friction between these two ideas. Does form mean something or does it not? And in order to create form, is it looking at a reality, or is the reality just constructed when you see it? In that sense. Maybe I can send also some quotes later if you want, because it's a really funny passage. And I think it also relates very much to contemporary architecture, and because you have a lot of kind of metaphorical references, and you have a lot of scalar shifts and forms based on things that don't have anything to do with building materials or building necessities, in order to produce things that we find beautiful. Probably now it's not quite as popular as when I was a student, but there was a huge fascination in parametric design and in modeling some abstract phenomena like, I don't know, slime molds or birds flying in a cloud, and turn that into the shape of a building. Why do that? But at the same time, you could also say, why copy a building? Because the building is also embeds its own kind of randomness or historical biases, you could say. Yeah.
we have time for a few more. How many more questions are there? Joanna has a question. Comment and anyone else? First, then maybe the comments.